Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Digitally Diverse, where we do a deep dive into the makers and the shakers in the tech industry. Today, we are joined by the wonderful Christian Newski, who is the Global Design and Quality Practice Lead at Telstra Health. Welcome, Christian.
Thanks, Ellen. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah, so for those who don't know you, would you mind giving us a brief overview of like where you've come from, your career to date?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a designer originated from Venezuela, but I've been here in Australia for 12 years. I started as a graphic designer early in my career, then quickly moved into user interface, which I practiced for maybe 8 to 10 years across different industries. And halfway through, I kind of like started wondering about how things work, what makes people come back to an experience, to a brand, to try using it, sticking to a product, and
Mhm.
just make me curious about the experience. Or early in the days, people didn't know quite well what user experience meant, but just made me curious about what is that thing or that makes it sticky, that makes people smile and enjoy the product. So halfway through, I kind of started my career in UX, and I've been on that for quite a while, nearly 8 years, I would say. But I always, I guess, kept that UI side. So I'm always been in love with the end-to-end experience, all the, I guess, the practical, but aesthetically as well. Yeah, I just been trying out across different industry. I love learning and absorbing new knowledge, new ways of working, just experiencing out new things. And I guess that variety of industries have helped me to become a stronger designer, a stronger person, and just experiencing also new cultures and new ways of working organizationally wise.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's been a bit of trying out different things.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that from your background. You've been in quite a few different agencies and also a couple of e-commerce, and now obviously you're with Telstra Health. What made you want to take the leap into Telstra? Because you've only just started there, right?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, so I've been in e-commerce, finance, I guess the energy industry, aviation, but most recently I tried the health industry, and I guess I immediately fell in love with for me the purpose in my work is really important. I guess the impact of my work, not only organizational wise, but what is that end product is going to be used for, and nothing better than I guess the health industry where you're helping patients with their health, they're improving their habits, either with facilitating that digital experience that really makes a difference in this world and in these days. So I guess I'm just passionate about what can I achieve with my work so that it can improve people's life. Yeah, I just stick to that as a purpose and yeah, the impact of my work, I guess. Yeah.
That's great. And I mean, obviously, please tell us what you can, but is there any like massive problems that you guys are tackling at Telstra Health at the moment? Like what kind of makes up your day to day?
Yeah, so generally speaking, the challenge is when companies start growing, there is this question of how we operate. It becomes a challenge of how do we retain, I guess, a way of working, the quality that we can benefit from each other's experiences. So as we embark into more designers as part of one team, obviously everybody has their own ways of working, their ways of executing. So how do we elevate that standard and benefit from each other's experience to set the standardization globally? I've worked in different teams, but this is, I guess, the next level of across countries. How do we communicate to each other effectively? How do we set the standards, design libraries, design systems? But generally speaking, also how we elevate the design quality that we can ensure is executed consistently across all products and all the streams of work every single time we touch on a product.
Mhm.
At the moment, we're growing. We are just getting more designers, trying to embark into new areas, new countries, and it's just a challenge to bring all of that together and strive for innovation and quality.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's something that I guess over the last few years lots of companies have been scaling quite a lot and facing those issues. It is quite challenging because as you grow, there's definitely people are bringing in a lot of different other experiences, different ways of working. But yeah, it sounds like you guys have got a really great purpose to kind of bring everything together and make it as seamless as possible. So that's great. So, Christian, what challenges are you working on in like the next 6 to 12 months for Telstra Health?
Yeah, so the first thing is basically diagnosing how the ways of working and how are we enabling teams to collaborate. At a glance, that looks on the not only the design system, because people tend to think that's the only way of like collaborating and setting standards, design patterns. But generally speaking, how do we share work? How do we set for critique and enable us to grow based on those critiques?
Hmm.
More organizational side, also how do we organize files, how do we communicate between teams as to when things are ready, when things has to be picked up. Things are, generally speaking, are consuming a lot of time for us collaborating and chatting, and
Hmm.
words of mouth that basically this guy said this to that guy, and then how we actually enabling from transparency, visibility of the whole team, so that everyone can benefit from those conversations, and that we can make it documented properly and replicate, so people don't have to go face through the same challenges and the same problems all over again. It's just that those capabilities, tooling, I like to say tooling, that designers can benefit from, so they can be more proactive, more productive, and also that they can revisit, and they can know how to execute, how to rely on, as ways of working. So literally just diagnosing and bringing everyone together. I tend to think and operate that it's not a one man's job. It's literally how we come together and benefit from each other's experiences to build this process and to build these tools.
I feel like that's such a important and valuable thing to get into place while you're growing. And honestly, it sounds like a lot of organization and a lot of behind the scenes work, a lot of thankless work, to be honest. Because that kind of organization, when it works well, you don't even realize that it's there half the time. Yeah, I think kudos to you for taking on that challenge, because that would drive me crazy. What's the like you mentioned collaboration is obviously a huge priority for you at the moment. What's the culture like at Telstra Health? Like you've just started there in the last few weeks or the last month or so. Like what's been the vibe?
Yeah, what I found is like people, generally speaking, are quite curious to expand, to learn, to change. They're open, I guess, for a new way, which is very, very important. I would say that's for me is the biggest attribute someone or a team can have. Not because you would never expect perfection; that doesn't exist. There is no team that has no problems. For me, the most important is the attitude. So embracing, trying a new way, finding a more efficient way to be self-reflective and think like there's some things I'm doing well that work well, that are productive. Some others are not, and I'm willing to learn. I'm seeing generally that people, while there's issues like every company, they're generally having a willing to change, to improve. There's a lot of talent. It's I guess a great company, a great time to be part of, and people just want a bit of connection and guidance to work it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, a very supportive environment, I would say, and very respectful as well, which are other two things that you look for in a good culture.
Definitely. Oh, that's really great to hear. I mean, obviously, you mentioned, as we can detect from your lovely accent, that you didn't grow up here in Australia. So, I'd love to hear what your education path was like in Venezuela, and like what you did to kind of get to where you're at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. So I started as a graphic designer in Caracas, Venezuela, so the capital of Venezuela in South America. From that point, I was always, I guess, very adventurous. I wanted to travel abroad and learn new cultures. For me, naturally speaking, I think it just comes natural to me, like the adapting and getting new environments. I've always been very extrovert and good to I don't know, dealing with people and learning new things. And so I wanted to travel. So I went to Italy for a couple of years. I live in Rome. Back in the time, as I said, I wanted to learn about the branding experience and what makes a good brand, just characteristics, things. Is that a process? Is that something that I can replicate? Is that some tick boxes that I need to comply so that that makes it a good experience, you know? So I did a master degree in basically branding and that kind of side. So then I went back to Venezuela. I opened a small agency that it was a bit of cross between design and IT. My brother is a iOS developer, so we have this dream of like building apps and stuff. So I was always very close to development, how they work, how they're built, and always impacted me the way I operate and the decision making that they have to be aligned with obviously the people that build your product. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So from that, I work a bit in quite a bit in UI there, and then I moved to Australia, just following a bit of a dream of my brother was moving, and I always wanted to kind of be we're quite close, and we wanted to embark into again that business that we dream of. So when I came here, I started studying actually UX in the design side, and again just the heuristic principles. If I could learn a process that I can apply consistently to any industry so that I can build products around user needs and not
Mm-hmm.
the way I used to operate, which is more business requirements, you know. From that point, I was always curious about the I guess the development side. Back in the time, I guess I was trying to stay here. I really love the country, so it became at the first point like something that I have to do to stay in the country, but actually then became one of the most powerful tools I've used nowadays, which is that knowing the UX side for the from the IT development part. So I've studied IT as well, so I ended up like knowing the end-to-end execution. I understand like databases, front ends, all of that side, just by concept because I want to stay, but actually ended up being one of my most powerful skills because there is very few designers that actually are developers and they understand how their decisions impact the development cycle. So now I have more meaningful conversations with developers. I've been able to decide more meaningful experience, but that are also feasible and time constrained, and that they meet that criteria. I'm able to negotiate and liaise with them as to the struggles that they face, and I can adapt my designs to meet that criteria. So it's been wonderful to have that, I guess, 360 profile and that blend of skills. You know,
Definitely.
for some people, it means it's not necessarily IT and design. Sometimes it's I've met a lot of wonderful designers that are, for example, used to be psychologists who move into UX, mathematicians, everything you name, like PMs, marketing people, everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that blend because it gives you a out of the box thinking, and it makes you go beyond just the UX tooling and capabilities that we learn in uni.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of my journey. Like, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you've been here, there, and everywhere. It sounds like so. You did your masters in Rome, is that right?
So I did masters in Rome and then design and IT in Australia in RMIT University.
Is there anything from your travels and the fact that you've lived in 3 different continents, does that influence your craft and your design day to day, or do you feel like you just kind of pick up what you're doing in the moment?
I think in so many ways. I highlight a few just for the sake of the timing, but one is when you, for example, you have to design for a different culture that is not your native, you are quickly able to understand the way of thinking, the way of their needs, as opposed to people. Some people tend to think like design is a bit of I'm an artist. You know, I do whatever I want. I got my style. Actually, it's not that like that at all. Like you're actually designing for customers, so you need to understand how they think, what they appreciate, what is it a good culture fit.
Mhm.
Language is one, culture, religion, so many things that if you have been through that adaptation period, you have to being that foreign, that stranger that migrates and fits into something, then you quickly understand how people think. You learn to respect. You learn to understand their culture. You learn to adapt to their way of being and thinking. So that actually carries out through the design as well. On top of that, I think similar in my journey, like different industries, one might think banking, okay, is very conservative, and you have a way of doing, and it's been for maybe most banks 100 years, and the same form, the same everything. I think when you come from a different industry, e-commerce, and then you're thinking maybe how can I fit this quick to view or a cart, adding a product to a cart maybe into the banking industry. So you're thinking about challenging the original ways of working into why don't I create maybe a hub where I can be onboarded as a customer, then you are adding products as if you were adding products into the shopping cart. So it's quite interesting how industries evolve based on the experiences of work or even cultural experiences that you have had in your life. Also, I think in my current work, when you have to uh, that product gets global, then again you need like localized laws and localized culture fits, languages, different barriers that you face. And if you have faced those personally, then you're better set to understand how your design has to adapt.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not as simple as just the design system. Yeah.
Yeah, no. It's so true, right? Because like when you do move, like I myself have lived in Europe a little bit and in North America, and you're so right. Like everywhere has got not only aesthetically but just culturally just a different way of thinking, a different way of consuming. So, yeah, knowing that it's kind of like a muscle almost. Like you, once you work at it, you're able to a little bit be a little bit more agile and a little bit quicker each time to be like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing in this place, and oh, this is how they do things here, and or in this industry. So, yeah, that's super interesting. Thanks for giving an overview on that.
You have a different mindset. Like it goes from that
Definitely.
resistance of change to curiosity. You're very easy
Yeah.
to try new things, to learn. Even back in my country, is more valuable to know a lot of things very shallowly, like across many things, than to be an expert and very deep into something.
Right.
Here, I find the opposite actually, and so it's quite interesting. But still, because you come from that background, you are able to. You're still looking for that broad perspective to connect to people, to understand the different pieces of the other areas of work so that you can do a better job in yours.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe another culture where everything is more granular and more specific, maybe you don't have that mindset, like it's more restricted. You just become like, I need to do what I do very, very well.
Yeah. You're more of like a perfectionist
Yes.
state of mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, I know that when I speak to like a lot of juniors and midweights as well, when they're like getting started or getting into the nitty gritty of their design career, they like ask me as a recruiter, like what advice I would give to them about going either that generalist route or that specialist route.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is there any advice that you would give to newbies? Like what pathways would you recommend?
Yeah. I heard this speech and it really changed my mindset, which was from the head of financial well-being at ANZ Bank.
Mhm.
I think it just really resonates because he was talking about the passion and the skills and how they blend. I come from a background where people go in uni, you go, you're good at X, Y, and Z, and then you tend to go on that pathway because I'm good at mathematics. So then I have to, which careers do they fit into those skills? So you go, I need to be a mathematician or an engineer or this type of stuff, right? He actually challenged that and reversed it. Where you go, what are you passionate about? And then within that passion, which skills do you have to fulfill that passion? I was like, wow, that's mental because a lot of people go into a route and for many years they execute, they're really good at it, but they don't enjoy it.
Mhm.
So when you go from that passion, is you whatever you do, you learn the skills, but always gonna feel excited and fulfilled about your job. One exercise I did with one of someone a mentor, and also with some even kids that were going to uni, they were curious. What should I do? How should I start? One thing I did was actually to brief them into the whole spectrum of UX and UI, what it meant, what are the different areas, just showcasing the skills that you need throughout the different areas. What is the outcome of those areas? And then just to give it a quick glance, because people go, I want to be a UXer. Do you know what UX means? Do you know which areas are in UX? Which ones fulfills you the most? Because when you're fulfilled, you're more likely to be great at it.
Hmm.
So from that side, I think the first step will be to get a good understanding of the whole spectrum, then understanding what are the required skills and what is the outcome. For example, in research, might be you need to be good at analyzing data. You need to be good at maybe running interviews. You need to be good at very methodological, like steps and processes.
Hmm.
And the outcome will be understanding the users and helping the product team to actually get the insights so that they can drive user-centric products. So are you fulfilled by understanding how things work? Are you fulfilled by, or are you actually fulfilled by executing the idea? Are you more creative? Are you more less scientific and more into the execution? So I think from that you understand the base, you understand what is required and what is the outcome. Are you passionate about that outcome? Do you have the skills that it takes to, or at least you're passionate about learning those skills? And from that point, you start narrowing. Some people might need a bit of more deepness before they embark into the journey. So you might actually spend I don't know, just reach out to people that you think have those skills quite mature and just ask them like, can I spend a day with you just understanding your work? And from that point, you have good foundation to then go and say, okay, I want to study this, I want to do this, I want to understand a bit better. Again, the first few years of your career might be slightly similar to that pathway that I explained. Not just going, I'm going to be a researcher. Just go, okay, I pick UX, I pick research, which area? So you might try a few different things until you find. My advice at the end would be don't go too deep until you understand and try out a few different things. So then you can invest your whole time into something. It's almost like dating. You don't just go deep with something. You understand the type of people you like, your values, your things, and once it aligns, that is worth of your investment and time.
Yeah, no, that's such a good analogy.
We're analogy, but it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it is like you do figure out what you don't like, the more that you, like, switch and, like, you figure out, "Okay, that leadership style, I really enjoy that industry, I really enjoy that," or that team size, I really enjoy being part of a smaller team or a bigger team, like, there's so many variables that you need to kind of figure out where you wanna be eventually, so, yeah, no, I think that's really great advice, and especially with reaching out to people who are in a leadership position of where you want to eventually end up. There's a lot of nervousness around doing that, especially with younger designers, because they, don't want to be taking up too much time and they don't want to be annoying and they don't want to like put themselves out there because that's scary. So hearing you say that you welcome that initiative from younger designers is really great to hear.
Yeah, I think just people work with empathy. I've been in that place where I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I want to go. And I think when people, I guess at least that's the way I will do it, is someone reaching out to me and saying, I'm lost. I think I want to study design, but I have no idea what to do or how it works. It's just because you're anxious and worried because you don't have enough knowledge to know what that means. And you need that knowledge to actually make a good decision. So I'll encourage you. Like some people might reject you or not respond. That's fine. Just keep trying, and you'll find someone that is passionate to share the knowledge, so that they are putting you for a good path.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree.
Just get what you need in order to make a good decision. Don't make a rush decision and then invest 10, 20 years into something that you look back and say, now it's a waste of my time. I make a wrong decision because I rush into it.
Yeah, really, really take advantage of your network and like just reach out and ping a quick, even if it's just like a quick question.
Yeah.
I feel like 99% of people in design are in design because they're passionate about it and passionate about the industry and want good people in the industry working with them. So, yeah, it's in their best interest to help out people just getting into it. So, yeah, I love that.
And finally, I just want to say, like, when I started, there was the design. That's it. There was industrial design, graphic design, fashion design, whatever. that was it. And you have to kind of, okay, I pick a lane, you know. I think nowadays you got it has matured so much. You have like a interface design, you have UX. Within UX you have research, and you have the more of the prototyping. Then you have design ops, and then you can be a people manager, you know. You can lead more of the operational side. You don't necessarily have to be like so much narrow into, like, it used to be very broad. Now you have so many lanes and layers to unveil that might suit you better, you know, in terms of your skills and your character as well.
Definitely. Yeah. So many options now.
So many options, yeah.
So, Christian, what lights you up and like motivates you to do what you do day to day?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the past, I guess it used to be creating a great product, and that I felt proud about it, you know, that people used, and it brings that glare, like they are happy with the product, that they enjoy the product. Nowadays, it went from that point into, I've done that a lot, and now I'm willing to teach people or show people or enable people, however you want to call it, so that they can do the same job I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's just enabling teams, enabling team members, juniors, mid, seniors, just that they can reach a level where they're feeling satisfied with their job, and they can continue passing on the torch. They can teach somebody else as well. So for me, it's just that journey, keep growing at whichever level you are, so that you can keep helping other people to achieve a great job.
Love that. So yeah, that collaboration and
Collaboration, and yeah.
yeah, I like that analogy of like passing on the torch and just continuing that flow of knowledge is a really nice way to think about people management. It's really wholesome.
Now, at this point, it's been a good leader. You know, for me, it's been a good leader, supportive. How can I support the teams in the best way so that they can do a good job? Yeah.
Awesome. And I guess, is there anything that you do regularly for like keeping up that motivation and that productivity when you are, passing on the torch?
Yeah. So I guess with my job, there is always so much to improve, and I think you sometimes you might get overwhelmed. So what I do is, like, every day I wake up and I set a purpose, a daily purpose, not like a. You might have some goals, medium to long term, which is fine, but I think you need some baby steps to know. Similar when somebody's choosing a career, just what is that I'm doing today that is setting me for that pathway, you know. So today might be connecting people, connecting a couple of guys. It might be just understanding the situation. It might be diagnosing the product or the process, you know. So having a clear, very, very clear instruction of that daily goal, it really helps me to be productive and to not feel lost.
Mhm.
Self-care, I like being taking breaks. Sometimes I think we get burned out because we have, again, driven by the previous point. We have so many goals, so many things we need to achieve, and I guess we lose track of taking a break. We just keep pushing ourselves to execute, to achieve milestones, and I think sometimes we're way more productive when we take a break. We're rested, especially in creative roles, and you have a time to breathe, to go for a walk, to have a coffee, whatever it is that sets you settle, and then your brain is ready to embark into the new problem or the new thing that you need to face. And I guess lastly, motivation. I like reading out people that or listening to people that inspires me, that challenges the way I think or the way I approach things. So I'm always constantly looking and hearing things, reading on the LinkedIn or books as to how people have solved the exact same problems that I know how to solve, just to see if there's a better way, you know, like something that I can expand on, like I have a broader perspective.
Love that. Is there anyone in particular who you like listening to or
Yeah. So ongoing basis, I usually hear Simon Sinek, and he talks about like leadership and core values. So I always like hearing how what he talks about, like good leadership and good products that stands out and all of that. There's also a guy called Adam Grant, and he talks about like organizational psychology and work-life balance and setting boundaries and all of this stuff to be productive. So he's a genius on that side. And I got a couple of guys that most people, I guess, in my career, they'll look for something design related. But I guess for me is anything that makes my helps me to be more productive and more efficient at my job. So I also hear to Jay Jetty and Joy Dispenza. They talk about like purpose and the mind and how the mind works, setting intention, actions that really sets you for success. So I love the way they think and the way they see things. Like releasing expectations, just go for what you want and just trusting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so love these guys. And not so much on the podcast side, but I love reading books.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a couple of ones for the audience. So I guess Designing Your Life is a great book. For me, it's because it's from Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, and they talk about how to use the design tools. So mostly like the tool that we use to extract how the user needs, so the double diamond approach, and basically they apply to the life. So how do you diagnose your, like, investigate your life and the needs that you have in your life, and how do you embrace this more curiosity and experimental side of life to find the ones that works best for you. So it's a different approach of approaching life instead of like autopilot and this is how I work. And the other one is Unfuck Yourself, about is Gary John Bishop, and it's literally about taking full ownership of your journey. So we tend to think like we have these limited beliefs, like I cannot do this, it's too late for me to change career, this is too hard for me, I don't have enough context, I will never get into that company, whatever it is, I'm not good enough. Basically just setting not listening to those beliefs and excuses, and knowing that someone can do it, you can do it. Just owning that if you take the right actions and you have the good intentions, you will get there.
Mm-hmm.
I love his mindset as well on that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to have to add those to my queue.
Yeah.
I know that lots of people that we get on the podcast, some people are really, really into anything design related, any kind of content they can get their hands on, they will devour. Where sometimes it's the complete opposite. They want that very distinct work life balance. They don't want to do anything design related in their off time. So it sounds like you're kind of in the middle, which is quite rare. Which is really nice.
Yeah, look, two things that are really a good source for me of knowledge is my network. Actually, in LinkedIn is quite broad, and I just like people posting things, great leaders or any level. I'm constantly looking at what they're doing, how they do it. So you learn a lot from that. So don't underestimate the power of your connections. That's a very powerful tool. And forums as well. And the other one is when you join a company, especially as you grow in that maturity, people tend to think like, okay, I'm a leader, I'm a senior, or I'm a manager, or whatever. I'm supposed to know everything, and that sets your mindset, I think, for closure and not learning anymore. Like I'm meant to be the expert at any field.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you get exposed to a new way that might be better or might be more efficient or whatever, then you go, this guy is X or he's more junior, then you are resistant, like I don't want to learn this because I'm meant to be the expert. I'm meant to lead the way. I think when you come from the mindset where juniors are way more advanced in technology, they're trying new things, they came fresh out of uni with different approaches, more up to date many times. Seniors are coming from different industries, different products, a spectrum, size of companies, everything. So when you come from a mindset like I got to learn from anyone at any level, then that's where I'm not supposed to know everything and being perfect at my job because I'm a manager. That's where you actually rely on people. You bring people together. You build this team that is coming from different shapes, not just coming from you because you are that head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you feel more at ease, but you also build a way better ways of working and take the execution to the next level because you are absorbing all of that and just shaping into something better than what you carry with you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's such a red flag when your brain suddenly switches off and you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I can just cruise and not take anything else on because I know what I'm doing. That should set off alarm bells. because the more that you can learn, the more variety, like you mentioned, the more variety of influences that you can get, it's only going to be of value to you in the long run. So yeah, that's really great that you keep your eyes peeled all the time for little tidbits of knowledge.
Yeah, I'll invite especially seniors and leads because that's why you see from juniors and mid, they grow so much within the first 3, 5 years because they're literally just surrendered to the fact that I know less, I'm just learning, and they absorb everything. They try different things. And I see more recurrently with seniors that eh, I got my ways better. And there's a lot of resistance, you know? So if you keep curious, you just become like an amazing designer because you're just literally taking things from everyone, and that makes your everything in your world much better. You know.
Yeah, totally agree. I love that. Well, Christian, I would love to hear potentially throughout your journey. I'm sure that you've come up against a few challenges. Is there any that come to mind to you, and like how have they shaped your career?
Yeah. So I think one of them is in the early years of your career. You come out of uni and you think like, do I have what it takes? You know, am I ready? You feel scared. I think on that side, I would say you're never alone. Just don't be, I guess, scared to reach out to people, to rely on people, to ask a lot of questions. To what I learned from one of my leaders is shadow work. Just stay close to the people that know and learn how they do it. You know, ask what is the process that you follow in order to execute your designs. What are the templates, the standards, anything you know that helps you to have an idea of how to move forward. And I guess as you move forward in your career, which I also face, is that when you start become a bit more senior, sometimes you got your goals and you want to keep growing, you know. And I think you get this eager of becoming a leader, managing people. I think on that side, you create a lot of frustration and resistance. I've met so many people, including myself, where you think you're not growing. You think that growth only comes from maybe a title. It only comes from that step forward opportunity. But actually, it's not true. Like any journey, any product, any company that you join, you're actually learning a lot of things every day. So don't measure your success because of a title. I've met many people that never become a leader, and they are like a Bible of design, and they're incredibly valuable, even sometimes even more than managers. And I think when you also, there's only not the pathway of leading people, there is also the pathway of leading technically. So don't restrict yourself to just, it's just that. But what I learned also, like when you bring that resistance, like this is what I want, I think you restrict your potential to there's no other ways, there's nothing else that you will appreciate because you're just focused on this, on becoming a leader.
Mhm.
And then you just you bring that frustration to yourself to work. I think when you let go of that, just focus on doing a good work, focus on enjoying what you're doing. Everything else just it works out by itself. You know, just trust that if you're meant to be a leader, you'll land on a leadership role, not just because you ask. It's just because it's gonna come to you. And if you're not meant to be, it's just some people try don't even like it. You know,
Yeah.
just focus on the value that you can bring, and everything else will work out for you. That's my advice.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Yeah, you're spot on with the fact that not everyone is destined or would enjoy being in a people leadership role. There is plenty of amazing designers that I know that are an absolute whiz on the tools and, technically would be like ready for a promotion or ready to step into like a leadership role, but they just don't want to because they know that their strength and their passion is their craft and they don't want to step off the tools. I respect them more because they like actually know what they want and they know what they get out of their work would be more than, just perhaps the ego boost of being like a people leader. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of strength in figuring out where you want to be heading, but also be aware of like there is other things out there than just like the typical career ladder.
Yes, exactly right. Don't get the society define what success is and
Hell
limit your
yeah.
life because I need to achieve X because people say that that is what is success is.
Mhm.
Just follow what makes you happy. If it's leadership, great. Just prepare yourself for that, train yourself. If it's not, it's fine. Like, success is what makes you happy and fulfilled in your career. So
Definitely.
uh,
I like to end the podcast with one of my favorite questions. So, Christian, if you could give your younger self some career advice, what would it be?
yeah, it's a difficult question, but I would say focus on the experience and the journey, not the outcome. If you're outcome driven, you always, did I achieve that outcome? Yes or no? I'm a failure, I'm a success. So I would say focus on what you're gaining from that experience, from that journey. And that would mean that you are focused on the daily things, everything that you're doing to get there, you are enjoying that ride. If that outcome comes or not, doesn't matter, because you're doing your best every day to enjoy your work and to do something good, to build something good.
Mhm. I love that. Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
Thank you so much for joining us. I have really enjoyed speaking with you today and learnt a lot. So, thank you again for joining us. And thanks for coming on for an episode.
Thanks, Ellen. Happy to be here.